following are exclusive insider news that Skydance, who will soon be the new owners of Paramount, are seriously considering not extending the current Star Trek deal that Secret Hideout and Alex Kurtzman has with Paramount. That this could be the end of the Kurtzman era of Star Trek. I wanted to have a dispassionate, sensible look at the numbers, the actual ratings for these TV shows, to try to decide whether it's really fair for Alex Kurtzman to lose the Star Trek deal. I'm taking my opinion out of this and just looking at the numbers. Welcome to the Tachyon Pulse podcast.
Our Tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.
Let's start with Discovery, shall we? A TV show that if you're a regular viewer of my videos will know I don't love. But let's look at the numbers. Well, over its 5 seasons, it actually got an average of 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. It had a 7 out of 10 score on IMDb and scored 3 stars out of the audience ratings on Google. Looking at by season to season, it does seem, again through IMDb, 150 something thousand votes on all of these episodes and series. It does seem that the first 2 seasons were relatively popular, but seasons 3 and 4 you started to see a decline. Now these are scored out of 10. In the first couple of seasons you scored around 8, high 7s, low 8s. 8.2 is the highest of any episode throughout that I saw. But you did see lows into the high 4s, 4.7, 4.8 for other episodes, which is well below average. But to try to put that in a little bit of context, the cost of each episode averaged between $8 and $8.5 million. That basically means that a 10-episode season costs $80 to $85 million to produce. When you're then getting only 7 out of 10, which I would consider to be average, I would argue that that's potentially a problem. It's a very expensive show to get a very average rating out of. Let's talk about Lower Decks quickly. Again, if you're a regular viewer of mine, you'll know I love this show. It's freaking amazing. On average, it got a 91% Rotten Tomatoes score. It got 7.8 score on IMDb and a 4.2 stars on the audience rating Google map thing. That's out of 5 again. You look at it by season and you actually got a 6.9 low and a 9 out of 10 high. And it does seem to be that the first season was considered to be a little weaker than the rest. After the first season, you start getting regularly 8 and 9 out of 10 scores. The end of season 5 seems to dip a little bit as well. But again, to put it in context, let's have a think about actually the cost. Lower Decks on average cost $1.5 million an episode to produce. So a 10-run season is $15 million, roughly. That's significantly lower, but you're actually getting a higher Rotten Tomatoes score. And to break the Rotten Tomatoes score down by season, you actually got a 68% score for season 1, which is not great. But in seasons 2, 3 and 4, you got 100% Rotten Tomatoes rating. And season 5 got 90%. So we can see that, okay, it was a weak first season. But from then on, this was a very popular TV show and rated very well across the board. Let's think about Picard, because this was again a show that, if you've seen my videos, I have very mixed feelings about. But we'll look at the numbers. Rotten Tomatoes, 89%. Not bad. Not amazing, but not bad. 7.5 IMDb score across the 5 seasons. A little above average. And 4 out of 5 stars on the audience rating on Google. So, not amazing. But let's break those numbers down a little bit using IMDb again. Season 1 had an 8.2 opener, but it had a low of 6.9 out of 10, which is, I would say, below average. Season 2 had an 8 score opener, so it had 8 out of 10 for the opener, which the opener was actually brilliant for Season 2. But it had a low of 5.4, which is well below average. That is really a very poor score, and I, after watching Season 2, agree with it. It was not a good season of television. Season 3, though, had an 8.4 opener, So a good rating for its opener. It had a high though of 9.3 and a low of only 8.2. So we can see from that it was getting 8, 9, 10 throughout the season. That is not bad. That is above average. And I would say, after watching the show, I can completely understand that. But Picard was expensive to make. Possibly because of the cast wages primarily, but it actually cost between $8 and $9 million an episode on average to make. That means each season cost between $80 and $90 million to produce. I'm thinking I would quite like higher scores. I would want Picard Season 3 scores across the board for that sort of cost. But Strange New Worlds is the highest rated thing that Star Trek has done under Kurtzman. It has a 98% IMDb score on average for the first 2 seasons. It has an IMDb score of 8.3, well above average, and a 4.3 stars on the audience ratings thing on Google. So, not bad. It also only costs between $7 and $8 million an episode to produce, which, again, is not a small amount of money. But you're looking at maybe $75 million to do a 10-episode season. Compared to the $80 to $90 million for Picard, it's not too bad, especially considering you're getting higher numbers. I actually think Strange New Worlds has done quite well for Alex Kurtzman, and if all of the shows were of this quality, the casting was at this quality, and the production value was there, and you got it at a slightly more reasonable budget, I would actually argue the budget needs to be more like $6 million an episode, really, considering these numbers, then, yeah, I actually think Alex Kurtzman would have deserved to keep the deal. But there's one major project I haven't mentioned. I haven't mentioned Prodigy, obviously, because that didn't do great, but again, it was a cartoon. It cost even less than Lower Decks to make, so I don't think actually Skydance would take much notice on that. They wouldn't worry about that too much. But something that did cost a lot of money is Section 31. Now, rumours are online that it cost anything from $80 to $150 million to make. Now, I'm told that's not actually accurate, and the budget was more like $40 million. But if we imagine that the rumours of $80 million are correct, or even close, then you would expect very, very good numbers on IMDb, etc., to warrant that cost. And Skydance would want very good numbers to warrant that cost. IMDb, 3.8. Rotten Tomatoes, 20%. And the Google audience reaction score, 1.7 stars. And you actually look at the comments, a lot of people gave 1 star, and their comment was, you can't give none. So, actually 1.7 is probably generous. Section 31 was terrible. And my understanding is from the people I speak to that Skydance look at Section 31 and go, how the hell did that happen? And I have to, particularly considering the cost, even if it was $40 million, have to agree with them that it was a mess from beginning to end. And I actually would argue, not just creatively, but from a business sense, it was a mess. They knew very early on they weren't going to be able to do a quality production and something that really was deserving of Michelle Yeoh's presence, but they did it anyway. And that, to me, shows very bad business thinking. Overall, Star Trek under Kurtzman, when we look at these ratings alone, has done okay. But the problem, I think, and the thing that Skydance are really going to look at, is that that's not how a lot of Trekkies feel about the show. This may have reasonably good numbers on IMDb, etc., and there may be a relatively happy sort of set of viewers. But core viewers, the hardcore fans, the people you actually need to keep a franchise going, they are horribly divided. You know, talk to me. My opinion on this was Discovery Season 1 was something that I really struggled to forgive. Picard Season 1 and 2 were just not good. Picard Season 1 wasn't awful, to be fair. It just sort of had a really bad ending. Picard Season 2 made no logical sense, and I would actually argue was kind of stupid. And we think Terry Matalas is the saviour of Star Trek, and I'd want to point to the fact that he wrote Season 2. When he showrun it, though, and he had more control, he brought us Picard Season 3, which I actually say I really, really enjoyed. Even though, when I then watched it a second and third time, and the nostalgia wore off a little bit, I didn't love it as much. But it's still a good show. Strange New Worlds I have a really mixed bag with, and some episodes I adore, some episodes I really don't like, but on the whole it's okay. Lower Decks I adore. My point here is, it's a really mixed bag under Kurtzman. There's no consistency. They're capable of producing very good Star Trek episodes, but they're also capable of creating Section 31 and other really bad Star Trek episodes like Subspace Rhapsody, which you all know I hate. That is the reason why if I was Skydance, I'd be looking at these numbers and going, it's not good enough. Particularly not for the money we spend. Will Secret Hideout lose its deal with Paramount? I'm leaning that probably yes. If I was a betting man, I would not give you good odds on Paramount, giving them a new deal. Do they deserve to lose the deal? It's not a clear-cut yes or no, to be honest. But, again, phaser to my head? Yeah, they do. They've made some really, really poor creative decisions and very poor business decisions regarding Star Trek. And Skydance taking over at Paramount, getting a new kind of Paramount, a slimmed down version of Paramount that needs to, have some wins and pay off some debt. I don't think Star Trek is a good fit under Alex Kurtzman. So, we're getting Season 5 of Strange New Worlds. We're going to get at least 2 seasons of Academy. I think at that point, we're probably going to have a major reset. But in the next video, I'm going to tell you what I think that reset should look like. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and leave a comment about what I've been saying. That really helps us out, and I really want to know what you think about these numbers and what they mean. Get into the comments. Also, you can become a member of the channel and you get to see videos up to 24 hours before everybody else. Please give that a try as well. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.
Our tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.